The ground shakes before we ever see the danger. A cold wind cuts across the empty fields of Montana, carrying a warning no one wants to hear. Something is coming for the Duttons, something bigger than betrayal, louder than gunfire, and darker than any enemy they've ever faced. The sky above the ranch hangs heavy and gray, like it knows the truth before anyone else. A soft rumble of thunder rolls across the valleys, brushing over the fences, the barns, and the silent pastures that once buzzed with life. And as the camera glides across the land, we feel it, the shift, the crack, the quiet crumble of a world built on loyalty, grit, and blood. The ranch looks peaceful, but the peace is a lie. The old land carries the weight of every fight the Duttons have survived, and every one they lost. A crow lands on a fence post. Its wings slow, its call sharp. It echoes into the emptiness like a warning shot. Narration begins, low and steady. Every kingdom has its end. Every empire must face its last sunrise. And for the Duttons, that sunrise is coming faster than anyone can stop. A slow montage follows, boots stepping through dust, a hand brushing the tall grass, the shadow of a horse moving across a field. These visuals don't show faces, they show legacy. They show the marks left behind by a family that refused to bow, even when the world kept pushing. Then the tone shifts. The once calm air turns colder, sharper. The distant mountains fade under the rising storm clouds. Something threatens the land, not just enemies, not just politics, but change itself. A force that cannot be shot, bribed, or buried. The voice continues. What happens when the land you swore to protect becomes the very thing slipping away? What do you do when your name, your bloodline stands on the edge of disappearing? As the wind howls, the scream pulses with one final image, the ranch gate. Still standing. Still fighting. But barely, the narration whispers, this is the beginning of the final echo. The storm hasn't broken yet, but the pressure in the air feels like it could split the sky open at any second. The land lies tense and quiet, holding its breath the same way the Duttons are forced to. Because when the trouble comes this time, it won't knock on the door. It will tear the walls down, a silent shot of distant headlights crawling up a dirt road. Another of a lone rider watching from a ridge, unmoving, unreadable. These images don't explain the danger, they hint at it. Something is circling the ranch, something bold enough to step into the shadows John left behind. A predator that has waited, watched, and finally found its moment. The narrator's voice lowers, steady and heavy. Power has a price. Land has a cost. And freedom. Freedom demands everything. The world around Yellowstone begins to twist. Developers push harder. Politicians whisper in dark corners. Outsiders make deals they don't understand. Every hand that wants the ranch reaches farther, digs deeper, claws harder. And for the first time, the ground beneath the Duttons feels unstable, as if the land itself is tired, done choosing sides. Dark clouds gather. Cattle move restlessly. The wind shakes the tall grass like warning signals. The old ranch hands stay close to their tools, their weapons, and their silence. They can feel danger these days the same way they feel the cold, the sharp snap along the spine. Then comes the part no one expected. The Dutton name is no longer enough to protect the ranch. The threats aren't just men with guns or deals on paper. They're forces disguised as progress, power, and revenge coming from every direction at once. For every step the family takes forward, something pushes them 2 steps back. The narrator continues, when a family is built on war, peace becomes the hardest thing to hold. And the world knows if you want to break the Duttons, you don't attack their bodies. You attack their land. You attack their future. A final shot, a storm rolling over the mountains, swallowing the light as it comes. Nothing stands between the Duttons and what's coming next. Nothing. Except the cost they're finally forced to pay. The storm finally breaks not with lightning but with a choice. A choice that forces 2 of the strongest souls in the Yellowstone story to step away from the only world they've ever known. The ranch may be the heart of the Dutton legacy, but for Beth and Rip, it has become a battlefield that no longer gives them room to breathe. The scene opens with the soft, crunch of gravel under heavy boots. Rip stands beside a truck at dawn, the sky just beginning to glow with a thin, gold line of light. His silhouette is defined, steady, but there's something different, something tired. Not of Beth, not of love, but of the fight that never ends. Inside the barn, Beth leans against a wooden beam, arms folded, staring into the shadows like she's trying to see her future hiding between them. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her silence is the loudest sound in the room. It's the silence of a woman who has burned down every bridge except one, the bridge she refuses to lose. The narrator cuts in softly. Some wars you walk away from. Some wars you carry with you, and some demand you start a new one somewhere else. The truth hits them both the same way. Yellowstone is no longer a home. It's a target pinned to their backs. Every new threat pulls them deeper into a story that refuses to let them grow, change, or heal. They've bled enough for the land. Now the world outside the mountains calls to them like a distant drum, dangerous, unknown, but full of possibility. A montage follows hands packing a saddlebag, Beth closing a drawer with a slow, heavy push, Rip taking one last look across the open fields. The decision isn't dramatic. It's simple, quiet, final, but this isn't running. It isn't surrender. It's evolution. The voice continues. They are the fire and the iron of the Montana frontier. Together they survived enemies, death, and destiny itself. But this next chapter, this next trail, belongs to them alone. The camera shifts to a long stretch of empty desert highway. No fences, no ranch gates. Just freedom stretching into the horizon. A place where their story can begin again far from the ghosts of old battles. Beth steps up beside Rip. She watches the rising sun like it owes her answers. Rip looks at her, steady and loyal as ever. No words. Just a shared breath, two legends preparing to leave the war behind and write a new one on their own terms. And as the truck door closes, the narrator whispers, "This is not an ending. This is the first step of the last ride." The world beyond Yellowstone stretches wide and wild, but the past never lets go quietly. As Beth and Rip disappear down that long, sunlit highway, the land behind them begins to tremble, like the ranch itself is reacting to their absence. For the first time in decades, the heart of the Dutton family beats without its fiercest protectors. And the silence they leave behind is deafening. A fast cut flashes across the screen, the ranch gate creaking in the wind, a lone horse running under storm-black skies, the empty chair John once sat in. These images are not reminders of what's gone, they're warnings of what's coming. Without Beth's fire and Rip's steel, the ranch stands exposed, vulnerable, and shaking under the weight of enemies waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But this story isn't about the ranch anymore. It's about the two souls who refuse to break. The narrator's voice rises with a slow, steady build. Some legacies are written on the land. Others are written in the blood of those strong enough to walk away. A montage ignites. Rip walking through a dusty town where everyone watches him with curiosity and caution. Beth facing down a room full of strangers with that dangerous calm only she can hold. New landscapes, desert cliffs, neon-lit bars, forgotten highways forming the backdrop of their next chapter. Shadows of new allies. Glimpses of new enemies. And a sense that the world they're entering is no softer, no safer, but it's theirs to shape. Their love becomes the compass. Their grit becomes the weapon. Their bond tested, sharpened, unbreakable becomes the shield that keeps them moving forward when everything around them threatens to drag them back. The music swells as sparks fly from a welding torch. Dust explodes under hooves and flames rise in the distance. A symbolic rebirth. A promise that even away from Yellowstone, they are still warriors of the West. Then, in the final few beats, everything slows. Beth stands at the edge of a canyon, wind pulling at her hair. Rip steps behind her, hat low, eyes steady. No fear, no regret. Only the truth that they're finally free to build something of their own, dangerous, wild, and unforgettable. The narrator drops to a whisper. The fight isn't over. The story isn't finished. The legend hasn't ended. It's only moved. The screen fades to black, a single title burns into view. Bold and powerful, Beth and Rip, Blood of the West, coming 2026. A final breath of music. Then silence, the legacy continues.